Good evening and welcome to the Candidates Forum, presented and produced by the League of Women Voters of Northwest Wayne County. My name is Valerie Nelson, and I'm the moderator for this event. Tonight, we welcome the candidates running for Plymouth Township Clerk. 2 candidates are running for 1 seat, which is a 4-year term. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. We do not support or oppose any candidate running for office. The League does take position on issues after study, so you may see our name attached to an issue that we're advocating or opposing. The League of Women Voters is where hands-on work to safeguard democracy leads to civic improvement. Membership is open to anyone who is at least 16 years of age, and you can join through our website. The League's main mission is to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation in government. One of the ways we do that is by having forums such as this one tonight. The League also provides a nonpartisan voter guide, which can be found online at www.vote411.org. Only League personnel and the candidates are present at this forum. We solicited questions from the public in advance so we could ask them at tonight's forum. Questions were screened for clarity, and those which included personal attacks were eliminated. The views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates and not of the League of Women Voters. All qualified candidates were invited, and both are here tonight. All the candidates have agreed to the format for tonight's forum, which is as follows. Each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute opening statement, a 2-minute response to all questions, and a 2-minute closing statement. The order that candidates speak was determined by a random selection process witnessed by the candidates before the recording of the forum. We will rotate the order of the candidate who responds to a question. First, League member Jackie Peters produced this forum tonight, and Donna Gilkey-Lavin will be our timekeeper. She will be holding up cards so that the candidates know when their time is up. The candidates must stop when the stop sign appears. And now we will get started with our forum. Let's begin with opening statements. Mr. Vorva, can you begin, please?
Thank you very much. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. I'm Jerry Vorva, and it's been my distinct pleasure for the past 8 years to have been the clerk for Plymouth Township. During this time, we've innovated a lot of things in the clerk's department when it comes to elections. As you know, there have been several constitutional amendments made by the public in elections. And so it's important that this is implemented in a very effective way. We have implemented the 9-day early voting center with an additional drop box, with no reason absentee voting, same-day registration, permanent absentee ballot registration. All of this affords the public an opportunity to vote. And we think this is very important because voting is a fundamental right. It's not like other things that the community does, like police or fire. Those are all important, but voting is a fundamental right. And so we work very hard in the clerk's department to make sure that your vote counts each and every time. Additionally, the clerk is responsible for the accounting. And since I've been the clerk, we have cleaned up the accounting process, made sure the audits were done on time, and the budgets were full and fully funded. We have done a wonderful job here in Plymouth Township, and I'm very proud to have been part of that team to make Plymouth Township a wonderful place to live, work, and raise a family.
Thank you. Ms. Conselman?
Hi, my name is Nancy Councilman, and I am running for Plymouth Township Clerk. I was clerk in Plymouth Township from 2012 to 2016, and am very proud of all of the accomplishments that we made in the office. We streamlined every single process, reduced costs where we could, did not bulk up on staff. And as a board member, we were able to run the township without raising taxes or fees, because it's really important that people are able to continue to live in Plymouth Township and are not taxed out of their homes, which, you know, in some cases has happened. My background is I'm a corporate attorney. I was chief counsel for a mid-size automotive supplier and I was also Plymouth Township Clerk, as I said. So I have both the public sector experience and the private sector experience to make the best decisions possible, understand the issues. I also spent 120 hours becoming a certified Michigan municipal clerk. And I was also immediately upon election in 2012, became a certified election administrator. And I would like to, I think the board the current board is heading in the wrong direction, has headed in the wrong direction with all of the high density development around the township. And I would like to see our small town character returned. And those are the kinds of things I would not support.
Thank you. So we'll begin now with the questions. First question goes to Mr. Vorba. I will be asking in a follow-up question your background and qualifications, but this first question is, what are the responsibilities of the township clerk?
Thank you for that question. Really, the township clerk, of all the three people who are the full-time trustees, is probably the busiest person in the office. We are responsible, of course, for elections. We're responsible for record keeping. We're responsible for audits and the accounting department. So the accounts payable comes through this department. And also we do the freedom of information, and we also handle passports. So really, the job of the clerk is really multifaceted. And with my background, with 2 undergrad degrees, a law degree from the University of Detroit School of Law, and the fact that I was a state legislator and also a local legislator when I was with the city commission, affords me the ability to perform all those functions in a very effective, honest, and straightforward way. And I think that is very important when you're dealing with local government. And I think, again, we have done such a wonderful job here in Plymouth Township, and we have not raised taxes. One of the issues that came up was that the pensions and OPEB were not being funded properly. So we went to the public and asked them for a millage to pay for the pensions and OPEB, which is the insurance cost for the retirees. And the public voted for that overwhelmingly. We were able to properly fund all those functions. And I think that's really important when you have happy employees that can perform the jobs for the taxpayers in an effective and straightforward manner. Thank you.
Ms. Conselman, same question. What are the responsibilities of the township clerk?
In a charter township, the clerk's office is responsible statutorily for all money going out. So payables, payroll, all of the bills, and also the general ledger accounting function. The treasurer's office is responsible for all money coming into the township and then disbursements out to the various taxing authorities. The audit, the responsibility for audit is divided in half. And our audits in the clerk's office, when I was clerk, they were always, our half of the audit was always on time. And I received the GFOA Excellence in Financial Reporting Award during my tenure there. The other key responsibility is responsibility for elections. I became a certified election administrator immediately. I ran 9 successful elections. I'm the only candidate that has done that. And one of the other responsibilities, I did all my own training, and I was hands-on with every aspect of the election process. Record keeping is a hugely important function also of the township. And that's responsible for keeping all the official records of the department. I also maintained a passport office and was responsible for Freedom of Information Act. And also the clerk sits as a full-time board member and gets to vote on an equal vote on every single item that comes up in front of the board. The clerk is also officially the recording secretary of the township board. But I understand that function has been given to the supervisor's office right now. But when I was clerk, it was part of the clerk's office function.
Thank you. This next question, we'll start with you, Ms. Conselman.
Okay.
What is your background and what qualifications do you feel you have to carry out these responsibilities?
Well, first and foremost, I was clerk for 4 years in Plymouth Township. Really, it was a pleasure. I did love being clerk at Plymouth Township. I graduated from University of Michigan. I have a law degree from Wayne State University. I am actually licensed to practice law. I'm the only candidate in this race that is licensed to practice law. One of the things about a charter township is that unlike other forms of local government in Michigan, charter townships can only do what the law says they can do, whereas a city or a village or another type of township can do whatever they want as long as there's not a law that says they can't do it. So there's an incredible amount of legal research involved in making decisions as board members in the township, and I feel like my legal background makes a difference. I also spent 120 hours becoming a certified Michigan municipal clerk. I attended all of the MTA, Michigan Township Association conferences, which are intensive training on everything from planning to zoning, all of the taxation, water, sewer, recreation, any issue that anybody on a township board would come up against. I attended all of those trainings. One of my areas of background is risk management. I ran the insurance department of my company, and I was also in charge of compliance. And there's a huge compliance element in being clerk. So I feel like I have both the public and the private sector experience to make the best decisions possible for the residents of Plymouth Township. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vorva, same question. What is your background and what qualifications do you feel you have to carry out these responsibilities?
Thank you. It's a very important question. As I said before, I have a law degree from the University of Detroit School of Law. Also, I have 2 undergrad degrees from Madonna, being history and also criminal justice. And I think that's important when you're talking about charter townships or really any kind of municipal government. For 10 years, I was a police officer, so I have a real acute understanding for public safety. And I think that's important because it's one of the main functions we do. I also was a realtor for 33 years and serviced the entire Plymouth community in that capacity. And at one time, I was also licensed to do appraisals. My background further was I was a city commissioner in the city of Plymouth, where I enacted local laws. As a state rep, I enacted laws for the entire state of Michigan, including for townships and municipalities. One of the important things we did at that time was Prop A, which keeps property taxes low. They can only go up a maximum of 5%. And that's very important for our senior citizens who sometimes get taxed out of their homes prior to Prop A. And my background with the police department has been very important in rebuilding the police department and the fire department, which was left not done well in the past. And we're able to enhance their retirement and OPEB payments by virtue of working with the taxpayers and asking them to pass a millage on that. So it's been a real pleasure being the clerk for 8 years, where I've managed over 7 elections. And each time our audits came back very clean in when audited by the state and the county. So I'm very proud of what we've accomplished here in Plymouth Township.
Thank you. Next question will be for you, Mr. Vorva. How confident are you that Plymouth Township's elections have been safe and secure, and do you see room for improvement?
The public can absolutely understand that really, not just in Plymouth Township, but in the state of Michigan, has a very good electoral process. The process for doing absentee ballots is one of the best in the nation, where there's plenty of checks and balances for issuing applications, receiving applications, issuing ballots, receiving ballots. This process makes sure that the person who's asking for a ballot is that person. check all of the signatures, and we are 100% sure that that works fine. And then we train all of our staff, and I'm one of the main educators in training our staff for both precinct work and also for the absentee ballot counting boards. So the process works very well. And now with the advent of the new laws, the 9-day early voting, the additional drop box, which was placed into law, we make sure that we effectively do all those processes so that the public knows for sure that the ballot that they that was issued to them and voted by them is counted each and every time. So our absentee ballot counting boards balance. And that's the main thing, is that the people understand that the number of votes going out and coming in are the same. And so the public can be really rest assured that the process used here in Plymouth Township and in the state of Michigan is one that works very, very well. And the staff is trained properly to do all these processes.
Thank you. Ms. Consulman, same question. How confident are you that Plymouth Township's elections have been safe and secure? And do you see room for improvement?
Well, I would agree with Mr. Vorba that the laws in the state of Michigan are very, very good and do take into account the ballot, the chain of custody of ballots. When I was clerk, the absent voter counting board people, the election workers, were allowed to have pens and they were allowed to mark on ballots. And so I implemented a rule that no one could have. That's an absolute, that's an absolute wrong thing to do. It's illegal for anyone to put pen to a ballot once it's been voted. And so I implemented a process where only red pens were allowed into the absent voter counting board. And my understanding is that that process was reversed when I was no longer in office. So not being part of the Plymouth Township election process, from what I can see as a voter, it appears to be working well. But I do know that people have expressed some concerns. People that work the elections have expressed some concerns with ballot confidentiality in the absent voter counting board.
Thank you. Next question. We'll start with you, Ms. Consulman. Are there any changes you'd like to make in the election process in the township?
Yes, I would. I would like to reduce the number of precincts in half, at least, or more. Currently, there are 12 precincts, and I believe that under the new law, we could get that number down probably below 6 and maybe 5 or 4 precincts. And that would offset some of the additional costs that the township has to expend with early voting, because you have a whole complement of election inspectors that you have to pay for the 9 days of early voting. And that's quite a big expenditure. I would also look to locate the early voting location so that there is room for candidates to do election day campaigning, electioneering, which is a fundamental American thing for people to do at the polls. And I think that the current location of early voting has caused some problems in that respect. So that's one thing I would. Those are some things that I would change.
Thank you. Mr. Borba, same question. Are there any changes you'd like to make in the election process in the township?
Well, as all of you may be aware, just last year, the law was changed that allows the number of people in a precinct to be increased. Prior to that, you could only have 2,999 people in a precinct. Now you can have 5,000. With that advent, and in next year being a non-election year is the proper time to make the changes of moving the number of precincts at least in half. And then putting them in places where it will be easy for people to access. Right now, you know that we use both schools and churches in our process for voting. I would propose to move away from the schools simply because some of the times when you're trying to execute the process, there's a school going on with kids in there, either the day before or the day after. So I think it would be better to move them to a location to where you don't have that conflict with the education process, because that's important for them to do that. But of course, we always thank the school districts for their assistance. So by changing the number of precincts, we'll be able to cut the number of workers probably in half, from about 125 down to like about 60 or 70. The location of the early voting center is perfect where it's at right now. And it is centrally located. It has the location for a drop box. It's easily accessible to the majority of the populace. It's safe, handicap accessible, which is a requirement of the law, that it's easy for seniors and handicapped people to access. So we would make those kind of changes in the process.
Thank you. This next question will start with you, Mr. Vorba. What suggestions do you have for recruiting poll workers for elections?
Thank you. Again, this is something that during the COVID time we had trouble with. A lot of people who had historically did election work and were senior citizens, and they were kind of frightened by that. And also, a lot of them feel a little intimidated by some of the rhetoric out there. And so we've lost a number of people who were very well educated in the process. I would move toward going to colleges and schools to try to get some more people in there who have good computer skills to help us by work our electronic poll books and run the tabulators. But the number of workers can be cut probably in half. But I think by going to the schools, colleges, and then trying to get some people who maybe have retired early in their 50s or 40s, and get them to come into the system so that they can better help people with the both the computer skills and the tabulator skills.
Thank you. Same question, Ms. Conselman. What suggestions do you have for recruiting poll workers for the elections?
I think there's a lot of communication to the public that we could do. It, going around to community groups and explaining how important it is to contribute to your community by serving on election day or in the early voting precincts or in the absent voter counting board. I would never put any kind of an age limitation on recruitment, because pretty much everyone these days is, has some computer skills, and there's only one or two people in a precinct that have to operate the computer or the electronic poll book. There's a job for everyone at a polling place, and I think it's just getting the word out, even putting notices in churches and schools, for, maybe even appearing in front of a PTO or PTA meeting. I think there are lots of ways you could recruit people. The trouble with college students is that they're often away at school. And I'm not saying you wouldn't try to recruit college students, but high school students could also be, a resource. We had an election inspector for most of my 4 years who was turned 100 during my tenure, and he was one of our best workers in the absent voter counting board.
Thank you. Next question is for you, Ms. Conselman. As township clerk, how would you ensure that there's no harassment of poll workers or voters on the day of an election?
I'm hearing some feedback. Is that,
Sorry.
I don't know what it is, but
Let me repeat the question.
okay.
As township clerk, how would you ensure that there's no harassment of the poll workers or voters on the day of an election?
Well, that's part of training, and we had processes in place if someone felt that something, they were being intimidated, they would contact my office. We would send someone out, or if it was, a threat, we would contact the police department, and the police department would send someone out to the polls. We try to, we get poll workers not to try to engage in a conflict situation, and they just you have to contact. They tell the person they have to contact the home office and get an answer for them, or contact the police department. We had some situations in 2016 where people were being harassed, and we sent someone out to the polls and asked those people to leave. And usually people are surrounded by their friends and neighbors, and it's usually not an issue. And even the 100-foot rule, when people are electioneering at the polls, it's really just a simple matter of asking them, reminding them to step back and obey the 100-foot rule. It should never be, a conflict situation. It's just natural. People are going to, move closer, and every now and then you have to send someone out and remind them to keep, observe the 100-foot rule.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Vorba. How would you ensure there's no harassment of the poll workers or voters on the day of an election?
Well, this is where my background as a law enforcement officer and a person who was educated in criminal justice. I work very closely with our police department. They consider me kind of one of them. And so what I did was I sat down with the police chief and with Josh Myers, who is in charge of the security for all of the Plymouth Canton school districts. And we sat down and made an action plan for protecting the precincts and the precinct workers. First, we, of course, educated all of our precinct workers on the laws and what they need to do. We also gave phones to them, and then had cell phones for us, so that if someone called on a landline, we could make sure that we got that call. So it's kind of a bat phone. And so we met with Chief Nitel and the security people of the schools and made an action plan whereby we have protection of the voting equipment in the precincts the day before, because we deliver all the equipment the day before. And so we make sure we have good patrols there. And then on election day, we have patrols not only around the facilities, but the police officers go inside and being seen. Having that police officer being seen frequently is very important. When people see a police officer, anyone who is thinking about doing something nefarious is certainly scared away. So having the background I did, was able to create an action plan to secure all of the precincts, secure all of the workers, and then have ways for them to contact not only me and other clerk workers in the office, but also the police. So it's a very good action plan.
Thank you. Next question, Mr. Vorba. What challenges do you anticipate in the upcoming election, and how would you overcome them?
Well, as you know, it's really been quite contentious in the what I call the national and state election process. There's a lot of people who feel very strongly about each candidate, and that sometimes can present problems with people being a little bit overzealous when they're trying either campaigning for someone, politicking outside the precincts, or just getting into a heated discussions with people. So having the police there frequently really kind of keeps that down. And of course, having our staff trained very well in how to handle these situations by calling me. And again, we have cell phones, in the precincts. We have cell phones for all, for the main workers at the, for myself, the clerk and the record keeper, so that we can have instantaneous access when something is going awry. But having that good education, having a good action plan is really the key to that. And by having that instituted ahead of time, well planned out and thought out, will eliminate just about any problem that I think could happen. But people get a little excited in the electoral process, and so telling the public that, listen, the election workers are there to perform a duty for them. They're your fellow citizens, your fellow residents. Please be kind. Instruct my people to be kind to them, and then hopefully we'll have no problems.
Thank you. Ms. Kunselman, what challenges do you anticipate in the upcoming election, and how would you overcome them?
Well, based on everything, some of the turmoil that's going on in the state and federal levels, I expect that there will be challengers at the polls, and they will be challenging people for not legitimate reasons to challenge people. And that is something that poll workers will have to be trained on to understand exactly what is an appropriate challenge, what's an appropriate reason for a challenge, so that no one is denied their opportunity to vote simply because someone thinks that they shouldn't be allowed to vote. And I fully expect that to be a problem in some areas. I don't know if it'll be I don't expect it to be a problem in Plymouth Township. But people in Plymouth Township can be just as passionate as people, in other states and localities. But it's something that poll workers absolutely have to be trained on. The appropriate reasons to challenge a voter. My understanding that in some states that people are challenging every voter that walks in, or voters just with a certain type of last name. And those are not proper reasons for someone to challenge a voter. I hope that we don't have any problems in Plymouth Township in November, but it's a matter of training, just like a lot of things.
Thank you. Next question, Ms. Kunselman. Since both of you have acted as clerk of Plymouth Township in the past, can you explain what is the process used in purging the voter registration list? And would you change that process?
There's a misconception out there that if the voter registration list, which comes from, it's the state list, there is some maintenance that happens at the local level. But it's the maintenance that happens at the local level is usually coming from the Secretary of State's office. When they have certain databases that they run the list against to try and identify people who have passed away. But there are times when there's someone who has passed away, and just because someone has passed away does not mean they're going to get a ballot or they're going to get to vote. We still do all of the checks and balances, signature checking. If there are it comes to the attention of the office that someone has passed away, that change can be made at the local level. One of the things that I am dismayed about is that there was an interstate process by which other secretaries of state could communicate with Michigan to see if someone has registered to vote in both states, and that was dismantled during the Trump administration. And that I thought that was just a very unfortunate change to occur, because we did have a means to, or a method for identifying people who are trying to vote in two different states, or who are, they might have moved, and the Secretary of States are just trying to coordinate to see which registration should be the current one. So that's the process for purging the voter rolls.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Vorba. Can you explain what is the process used in purging the voter registration list, and how would you change that process?
This is a state system. So the Secretary of State runs the qualified voter files, and they are responsible for the majority of making those accurate. Now, there are both state and federal laws that discuss when someone could be removed from the voter rolls. And you would have to miss a couple of federal elections before the Secretary of State would want to remove someone from the voter rolls. When someone passes away, the county notifies the state then sends us a notice through the qualified voter file. And we check that every morning to make sure that if someone has passed away, then we can remove them from the voter file. You can't just remove anyone for any reason. There's a whole process that's both run by the state and federal government. Some of the states do cooperate with our Secretary of State, not all of them, maybe about half of them. Their Secretary of State and another state will let the Secretary of State here know that the person has either got a new license there or registered to vote there, and then that is removed. There probably is no way to get a perfect system, because if I was to deregister everybody right now and re-register them the very next day to where it was perfect, the very next day it would be imperfect because someone would die, someone would move, someone would not register to vote at another location. So if someone has passed away and I know it, then I can do something about it. But this is done by the state, and I think the state could do a better job of doing that, of purging those rolls. And I think they should do that.
Great, thank you. Next question, Mr. Vorba. Can you explain what methods are used to assure that there is no voter fraud in Plymouth Township, and would you change that process?
Thank you very much. Again, everybody is in the qualified voter files, and that's what we gauge against when someone says, I would like to have a ballot or to come to vote. They're either are going to be in the voter files or they're not. Now, of course, now we have new laws that people can register on election day. And I think that's a good thing because it affords more opportunities for people to vote. But if someone comes to the precinct and they don't have an ID, they can sign an affidavit. Now, when they do that after the election day, I pull all those affidavits and check them against the qualified voter file to see if anyone has tried to be someone else. And if we find that, we turn them over to the Secretary of State, who then sends the state police in. As you know, a couple of years ago, I caught someone trying to vote for someone else because we checked the signatures and we checked the accuracy of the document itself. And we were able to turn all that information over to the Secretary of State, who then notified the state police, and the person admitted that they had done it, and the person was found guilty. We've had a couple of instances that we have turned over to the Secretary of State. They haven't done anything with them yet. I'm sure they have a lot of other things going on. But whenever we see something, we turn them over to the Secretary of State, and then they get the state police or the Attorney General involved in it. So you can be assured that we are checking all of these processes to the nth degree to assure that only people who are qualified to vote in our elections.
Thank you. Ms. Conselman, same question. Can you explain what methods are used to assure there is no voter fraud in Plymouth Township, and would you change the process?
The process is dictated by the state, and it requires signature checking at a number of different stages. When you register to vote, you have to register either in person before you get an absent voter ballot, or at a Secretary of State's office. You actually have to show your face at some point to register. Or if you register to vote by mail, then you have to vote in person your first election. At some point, you have to show your face with ID to show who you are. But we have signature cards, and those signature cards are checked when an application for an absent voter ballot comes in, the signature is checked at that point. The signatures are checked on the absent voter envelope, the ballot envelope. So there's multiple signature checking that goes on. And, like a lot of things, your signature changes over time. And, we've had people who signed their signature card decades ago and their signature doesn't look the same anymore. And so we contact those people and we have them come in and re-sign with ID, so that then we have a current signature on file as well. Some people that sign when they're 18, then they, now they're 50 and their signature does not look like it did in when they were 18. So I don't think I would change any of the processes. If I was a legislator, I might tighten up the rules for expat voting, not military voting, but expat voting. That's a little bit interesting, but it's the number of voters that we have in Plymouth Township, or that are voting expat in Plymouth Township, is pretty small. So it's not a huge problem. So I have to stop. Thanks.
Thank you. This will be our final question. Ms. Conselman, is there anything in the Michigan state voting laws that you would like to see changed?
Yeah, well, I just talked about the expat laws. These are for people who have moved out of the country, and they're still allowed to vote in the country. Now, military and military spouses were covered by federal law, and it applies to, and then Michigan adopted those laws, but why expanded it to expats as well. Sometimes we have no way of checking if an expat ever lived in Plymouth Township, or if they're the child of someone who ever lived in Plymouth Township. So that's an area that I would, if I were a legislator, I would look to change. I am not sure I would change any other processes other than I would, as if I was a state legislature, I wouldn't allow anything but red pens into the absent voter counting boards, especially since my red pen rule was overturned when I was out of office, and absent voter counting board people were allowed once again to mark on people's ballots, darken in circles that were not quite dark enough, and that just almost makes my head explode thinking about it. But so I would change that for sure. I'm not sure I would change anything else. I think Michigan has because it's a decentralized state, I think that it has some of the strongest election laws in the country. And I try to explain that to people who think that there are, all kinds of people voting that shouldn't be voting, or people getting absent voter ballots that they didn't ask for. So I have every confidence in Michigan, that in Michigan law that our elections are fine. They're honest. They're good.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Vorba. Is there anything in the Michigan state voting laws that you would like to see changed?
Well, I think I need to clear up one issue, because Ms. Councilman keeps talking about red pens and not using dark pens in the counting board. They have to have dark pens because sometimes you have to recreate a document, such as people who now are Unicava, are military or overseas people. They are emailed the ballot and then they mail that back. Well, that ballot will not run through the tabulator. So we have to then recreate that ballot to have a duplicate, and you need pens, dark pens to mark the circles. And this is done with a Republican and Democrat. This is in the state law. This is how it's done. And if there was a damaged ballot, they could recreate it also. So this is allowed by law. So there's nothing nefarious going on with pens to insinuate that is not fair to the workers in the counting board. One of the things I would like to see changed is that the state would be much more aggressive in cleaning out the voter rolls. I think having that done on an annual basis would be a really good idea. What I would like our legislature to do is to work with the federal legislators and create a national voter bank so that everybody would know where people are registered. You would know if someone was registered in California and registered here. If there was a centralized system to where you can tell if someone has moved to that location and voted. We've had several instances where someone has voted in Plymouth, in Michigan, and in Florida. Now, they get caught ultimately, but if you had this centralized voter roll, it would be very handy.
Thank you. That concludes the question portion of the forum. Mr. Vorba, would you like to do your closing statement?
Thank you very much. Again, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this forum on. I think it's very important to help the public to be informed when they're trying to make the decisions, especially in the local level. That's probably where your vote means the most. So it's important to be informed about the candidates. Again, it's been my pleasure to be the clerk here for 8 years. We've done great work here in Plymouth Township, making sure the audits are done on time so that we receive all of our funding from the states. The budgets are done, they're balanced. We do a wonderful job with our police and fire, all of our public safety. We've done a wonderful, wonderful job here because I'm one of those people that vote for those things. And because of my background in law enforcement, I'm able to really add value to that process. Now, I want you to know that in Michigan and in Plymouth Township, your vote counts and it is safe, it's secure, and there is no fraud going on in Plymouth Township. You can be assured of that. And I want you to know that all of the other processes that go on in the clerk's office is being done in workmanlike fashion, whether it's FOIA, whether it's the counting, whether it's record keeping, all of this stuff is being done because my name is on that. My name is on all that work. And I take great pride in knowing that you have several times elected me to this position. And I consider that I'm very humbled by it. And you can be assured that I will always use the best of my abilities to perform all the functions of the clerk in a workmanlike fashion. And again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Conselman, would you like to make your closing statement?
Yes. I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters for having this forum. I would have liked it to have expanded beyond election questions, because one of the main jobs of an elected board member is actually passing on every single vote that the board votes on. And one of the things I would like to say is that one of the reasons I'm running is I would like to stop some of the high density truck intensive development that's been going on all over the township. And I think the township hasn't balanced economic development and with the needs of the community to take into consideration of impact on neighborhoods. These are truck intensive, huge millions of square feet of warehouse developments that are changing the character of our township. And this board has raised all kinds of taxes and fees. They put on a 1% tax collection fee, which is an unelected tax on a tax. I would repeal that. I am not a rubber stamp in any respect. I'm independent. I don't belong to a slate, and I am not beholden to any dark PAC money that some of the candidates are beholden to. And I would like people to consider voting for someone who is, I am not beholden to any of, I have no special interests. And I want Plymouth Township to return to the way it was before, where it's a wonderful, safe, place to raise a family and to retire in. Thanks.
Thank you. We thank the League of Women Voters members who helped this forum. This forum has been recorded and can soon be viewed on the League's website, lwvnorthwestwayne.org. Please note that ownership of the recording resides with the League of Women Voters of Northwest Wayne County. The candidates or their supporters may not use portions of the forum or any audio clips, video clips, or transcripts for political advertising or other purposes without the written permission of the League of Women Voters of Northwest Wayne County. We also thank the candidates who are running for office, where they're asking for your support as they seek a job in the public sector, and we hope voters will listen to their views. We also appreciate the voters in Plymouth Township who are watching this forum to learn about their choices for Township Clerk. All of these candidates were invited to participate in the League of Women Voters Voter Guide, a publication you can access online by visiting vote411.org. The League of Women Voters is providing this forum as an opportunity for candidates to express their views related to their candidacy. Statements expressed by the candidates are not endorsed or opposed by the League of Women Voters. Also, the League of Women Voters does not certify any candidate responses to questions as accurate. Voters are encouraged to fact check information shared at this forum. If you're not registered to vote, you can do so up through Election Day. Within 14 days of the election, registration must be done at the office of your Township Clerk. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day, November 5th, but all registered voters can vote early by absentee ballot or at an early voting site. If you're voting by absentee ballot and have not already requested to be on the permanent absentee ballot list, you'll need to fill out an application first. If you need an absentee ballot application, you can get one at the Township Clerk's office or on the Plymouth Township website. Voters in Michigan can also vote during early voting. At early voting locations, voters will have the opportunity to vote and insert their own ballot into the tabulator. For the November election, early voting is available 9 consecutive days from 9 to 5, beginning Saturday, October 26th, and ending Sunday, November 3rd, at the following location in Plymouth Township: Risen Christ Church at 46250 Ann Arbor Road. This concludes our forum this evening. Thank you, candidates, for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.